and turn this over to Jackie Hooper from Conference Direct.
Thank you, Michelle, and good morning, everybody, or welcome. Might be a different time of day where you're at. Thank you for joining us. So today we're just going to go over moderator training. So basically with the moderator role, you are kind of in charge of the meeting, as like we like to say, and kind of helping direct your speakers throughout the process. So first we're going to start, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen on how to enter the session, which is basically almost like we are right now. You're getting into that Zoom room, and then from there we'll talk about the controls and settings that you want to check for your speakers to make sure everything goes successfully. So you will be receiving an email sometime this week to sign into the platform. Once you are in here, you'll see this is kind of our home screen right now. We're currently working on the site, but it's very, very pretty. So this is where you will come. One thing to note is that you will come into your edit profile. Go ahead and upload a headshot if you can. Enter any information over in the bio is really great, just so everybody can kind of know a little bit about you if they go into your profile at any point in time. But again, I think that headshot is really important. It's just kind of nice to be able to put a face with a name, especially you know, if you're listed as a speaker in a session or anything like that. So as far as entering a session, the most important button you'll find is going to be your daily agenda and my agenda. Anything that you are listed as a moderator / session chair on will be under my agenda automatically for you. So again, that's just daily my agenda, and your sessions are going to show right here. Obviously, if you have more than one, they will show, and this is a bad example because I put them at the same time, but you'll see those sessions listed out here for your use. So when you're ready to join, you'll be able to join 20 minutes prior to your session start time. You'll do so by just clicking into it. You will see a manage button up here. Obviously, your attendees do not have that because we don't want them on that back end. So again, manage. And then you're going to click start meeting. Unfortunately, I can't take you much further than this. I'll click on this just so you can see it's going to pop out in that Zoom window, and you're going to open Zoom meetings. Because I can't have two open at the same time, I won't be able to go further, but it will pop you out just like we are right now in this current Zoom meeting. And at that point, you are now in the session. A couple things to kind of note before you click that button. It reminds you that 20 minutes start time, so we call that our green room. This is kind of a safe space for you to get in, make sure all your settings are set up, make sure your speakers get in, that we test their sound, we test their video, we test screen sharing, should they be sharing their screen with anything. And then 1 minute prior to the start time, it is going to go live to attendees. There's two things to note, and I'm going to pull up a screenshot for this particular piece. Sorry. When you come into a webinar style session, which means your attendees cannot speak, only panelists, moderators will be able to speak during this session, you are going to see a button at the top, depending on your version of Zoom, of start webinar or broadcast. This is going to be something that as a moderator or chair you are in charge of. Do not click it until you're ready to go live. So this basically makes it go live to our attendees, and we'll hit this 1 minute prior to our start time. As your panelists come in, just remind them not to do not touch that button. Because again, it makes it goes live to attendees. It really doesn't go live to that 1 minute, but we don't want them touching it. It also starts our recording. So again, as a moderator panelist, you are going to be in charge of this. Start hitting start webinar broadcast 1 minute prior to your session start time. So now that we are in the meeting, and again, I apologize because I can't share my Zoom screen to show you. We're going to go, I'm going to show you kind of off of screenshots, I apologize. So once you get into the particular Zoom room, everybody is going to enter as a host 500, whether you're in a webinar or a meeting style. So you will need to rename yourself. That is simply done by clicking or hovering over your picture, those three little dots, and clicking rename. Everybody will have the ability to do this. However, sometimes speakers might have a little bit of difficulty. And as the host, you will have the ability to rename people. So it is very common that you might have to help somebody just change their name so it doesn't show as host 500, since that's what your attendees are going to see on their side. So you want them to just list whatever name they might want their attendees seeing on their side. Where am I going with this? So one thing that you'll want to do is, and I'm going to stop share just for a second so you guys can see at the bottom. At the bottom of your screen, there's like a panelist that shows 84 right now. When you click it, it pops that window out to the side for you. And that's where you're going to want to make sure that you are listed as the host. In this case, we're not changing the host, it is Michelle, but you want to make sure you're listed as the host. This basically just gives you the full capabilities of the meeting. For some reason, should you enter and you do not have it, at the very bottom of that participant screen, there are 3 little dots, and you can reclaim host. You may not see that right now based on the settings, but again, we'll send you a guide that will list all of this as well. But that would be the first step. After you rename yourself, you want to make sure that you are listed as the host.
And if you also, Jackie, just to chime in, if you are not the host and you don't see the reclaim, the person who is the host can turn over and make you the host as well. So they can just hover next to your name, do the drop down and say make host, and then it'll transfer over to you. Sorry.
Hopefully we won't have to do that, but
yeah, hopefully you won't. Those are 2 ways to make sure that you are.
Yeah, perfect. So that would be the first step. You just want to make sure that you're host. The next is making sure that everybody who is a panelist in your session is listed as a co-host. So that again is by clicking that participant screen that pops out to the right, and you can simply hover over that person if they don't show co-host and click more to assign that privilege to them. That says assign co-host. Again, you can only do this as a host. So that is, again, you got to hit that first step of assigning and making sure you're host before you can kind of do these next steps. Host is automatically assigned to the first person in the session. So that's why it's just really important to get in there that 20 minutes prior to start this. And then, sorry, I have baby brain today. So then once you're in, there's a couple settings that you're going to need to set up. Under the participant screen, again, there'll be a drop down, and there you want to make sure that your panelists are allowed to unmute themselves. Let me show my screen of the screenshot. Allow them to unmute themselves, allow them to rename themselves, and allow them to start video. So those are important if they're sharing their screen. That gives them the capabilities to do so. Otherwise, you'll have some issues when your session starts. So again, these are those 3 little things you want to make sure are checked, and that's by clicking that participant and the 3 little dots on the bottom right hand side. And again, we'll send this to you in a guide so that it's, you know, you have some practice and you've seen it actually within this. And then the next piece is the chat box. This is going to be different from webinar to meeting style. So with a webinar style, excuse me, we want to turn the chat box off so it's only available to your moderators and panelists. This is so that you guys can communicate. Maybe it's you set giving them a 5-minute warning or anything like that, but only the chat is going to be available internally to your moderator and panelists or speakers. And to do that, you simply click on the chat at the bottom of the box, bottom of the Zoom window. And again, there'll be 3 little dots, and then it will say participants can chat with. And we want to change it so that it says no one. Bear with me to show you a screenshot. So again, it's going to look just like this, these 3 little dots, and you'll change it to no one. And again, this is for webinar style meetings. For the meeting style, we actually want to leave it to everybody publicly and privately. The reason being is your meeting is a style just like we're in right now. You know, people are going to have that communication. It's a little bit more open in that particular style, whereas a webinar, your attendees can't speak. So it's just important that you have a way to kind of communicate with your panelists rather than saying, hey, Michelle, we can't hear you, or hey, Michelle, let's switch over. So it just looks a little bit better in the grand scheme of things. Give me a second. All right, so that is, again, that is webinar and birds of the feather or meeting style. The next thing that you want to do is once you have everybody renamed, they all have that co-host privileges, you want to go ahead and go through your flow of the session and checking your speakers. Always make sure that you obviously can see their video, but have them speak to make sure you can hear them, that they don't need to put headphones in or something like that in order to hear them. because they might think they're okay, but if you can get them talking just to check. And then if they are sharing their screen, you do want to have them practice that so you don't have any issues day of. And that's simply by clicking at the bottom, just like we do almost every day in Zoom these days, by clicking the share screen button at the bottom, and then they'll want to select their screen. One thing to note is that if they are sharing computer sound, they do need to make sure that both buttons are checked. If they do not click those buttons, we're not going to hear their computer sound. So then you'll start getting from attendees that they can't hear something. But again, that's why it's super important that we just have them practice sharing screen ahead of time. And it also is a place that we find that maybe they're having issues that they can't do it and they have time for you to get it into your computer and maybe do it for them if they have to. But again, it's just that share screen at the bottom. If they're doing a video clip, we've got to make sure that those are checked. And if they're doing computer sound, it gives them just a moment that we can also play the sound to make sure that you're hearing it properly prior to going live to our attendees. All right, and then before I go into the chat piece for a webinar, was there any major questions? I don't think anybody had any major questions yet.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
If someone accidentally clicked the broadcast, how are we going to reverse it or something?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So when they do hit it by accident, it will start the recording. As the host, at the very bottom of your screen, you will have the ability to pause or stop the recording. That's what you'll want to hit. So it doesn't necessarily go live to attendees until that 1 minute prior, but you want to stop that recording just so it doesn't record all your green room things and everything like that. And then at that 1 minute mark, you'll need to hit resume recording so that it will start again. And it's not a big deal if for some reason maybe you didn't notice somebody hit it, just let us know, let one of the MRS staff people know so that we can make sure that the video is pulled and then we trim off any of that conversation that might have happened. So it's not truly the end of the world, but we try to, as much as we can push them not to touch it, that's our best bet.
May I have another question?
Sure.
So you say that in the web panel format, we turn on the chat only among panelists and the moderator. So in that case, how would the audience ask questions then?
That is a good question. So let me make sure there's not any other questions. I'm actually going to show you that because it does live in the platform for those particular sessions. I know somebody asked at which point do we choose meeting or webinar. This is already going to be set up for you. And it might be a question for the meetings team. I believe you guys will be communicating that to them, or is that something that we need to kind of show them on our side?
Yeah, we can communicate that to them, but for the most part, the symposia, the live symposia sessions will be webinars. There might be a few exceptions that are birds of a feather or the meeting type like we're having here, but for the most part, they will be webinars.
Awesome. And one of the biggest things between the difference when attendees start entering is in a webinar, you will not see your attendees on video like we do right now. They're simply going to be under the participants. There'll be an additional tab that says attendees. So you can just see the number growing and their names will be listed. Whereas a meeting, they're going to join you just like we are right now. They're going to join you in this room. You're going to see their faces if they choose to turn on their videos, which I think is, take advantage if you want to be able to see them. But that's the biggest difference between the two. Let's see. We also had a question about only having the 20 minutes prior the meeting to start with this and practice with the speakers. So for the session, you only have 20 minutes. If there's somebody that you feel like you need to have practice with ahead of time, please reach out to us so we could set it up for you. But again, typically your 20 minutes, as long as everybody joins in time, you have time to kind of check through everything, check mics, check videos, quickly discuss just how the flow of everything's going to run, and then get everybody to mute themselves and go live. But again, if there's somebody you're concerned about, let us know so that we could set up a test session for you that you guys could practice ahead of time if you need to. All right, so then I know we've had a couple questions about how in a webinar style attendees are going to ask questions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And this is going to be very important for moderator session chairs because really you're going to be the one kind of watching those questions come in. And that could be something you put in the chat to your panelists or you ask live, depending on your preference. So the question or chat box is actually going to live back on the platform. So once you open the Zoom, the easiest thing to do is just make it a little bit smaller so that you can get back to the actual platform. So this is your internet browser. So you click, this is where you click start meeting. So you're going to go back to meeting details, this little button right at the top. And then this is where the chat box is going to live. So let's stick a test in here real quick. So now you can see where the chat lives. So there's a couple different things for you. If you have double screens, that's great because you can kind of have your Zoom on one screen and the chat up in another. There are also some tricks and tips that we can send out. If you are a Windows user, you're able to hit, and I don't know the correct terminology, the little flag button on your keyboard and hit your arrow either to the left or the right. So like this, and it will push it over to the left-hand side. And then you can put your Zoom on the other side. So you're basically splitting your screens. We'll send directions on how to do that, as well as for Mac users, how you could kind of split your two screens because it is different for each operating system. But again, that was just simply, I was in the manage. So this, you're already in your Zoom window. You just make it a little bit smaller. Click back into your internet browser, back to meeting details, and your chat box. If for some reason you're maybe not seeing any chats update, simply just refresh your screen because sometimes if it's has sat idle for a little bit, it just needs that little refresh done. And it's a great place as a moderator that you can welcome people to and remind them for those webinar style sessions to, please place your questions for the speakers here to kind of get people promoted and understanding that that's where they're going to put those questions. And that way, again, it's internally, you need to decide if you're going to place them in the chat or ask them live the questions. Now we have a couple of questions that came in. Sorry, I'm trying to go back to the questions. Somebody asked what kind of support do we have if an issue happens 20 minutes prior? Could this delay the session? So that is a good question. We will have a live support room. And then I know we are internally talking about exactly who would be the contact you would reach out to for the MRS team if you're having, maybe your session isn't starting, maybe the button's missing, whatever it may be, we'll have a direct, I don't know, Michelle, if you want to talk to this now, but somebody that you can reach out to so that we get you help very quickly to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, we'll provide support and provide directions for you on that as well. So you always have access to somebody if you're having issues that you can pull in either an MRS staff person or member of the Conference Direct team to help.
And then the question came in actually from both. Do we have a session assistant or MRS staff to assist us during the live session, or is the session chair to take care of everything?
We do not have symposium assistants assigned for the virtual conference. So the moderators, we're asking you have two so that you will be able to host the session as well as check on the chat questions and work together to run that session.
And I think once you guys also see the guide, once you get in the system, it'll be a little bit more familiar. I know a lot of us use Zoom on a daily basis, multiple times a day. So it's very similar as a moderator session chair. What you see every day, it's more the attendee standpoint that they see, an embedded video or such. So really it's just getting in here through those various steps, making sure you're the host, assigning your co-host, and really at that point, you're basically ready to go live.
So Jackie, there was another, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, you're fine.
There was another question also prior. It says, if we are using recorded talks during our sessions, will these be already loaded or do we need to run them from our computers?
So I believe the preference was that the actual person who the recording they have shares their own recording. And again, that would be done by clicking that share screen And because it does have sound, those two little buttons do need to be clicked. And I'm trying to open that back up for you guys. So again, you're going to click that share screen and you'll want to hit these two little buttons so that they can hear it, and then share. So that would be the preference. If for some reason during your 20 minutes you're having issues, that's when we need to kind of figure it out. Maybe your moderator, send it to your moderator so that they're able to share it for you. But that would be the preference, is that the speaker who did the recording shares their own. Somebody asked about virtual backgrounds. So you can set up your own virtual background as well, and we can certainly include those. I don't know if MRS has any specifically for the conference that you're going to be using. But we can certainly share directions on how to do that. And it's definitely important not to sit in front of a window or things like that. And that's something we'll kind of help you with too. As you're the session moderator, if you have somebody who's you just really can't see them, tell them at that point. So that way, you know, that's what the attendees are going to see as well. So we definitely want them to look, you know, good on during their presentation as well. Somebody asked if the speaker isn't there to share their own video or recording, then yes, the session chair or moderator would be the one sharing that. So I think that's something I believe we would know ahead of time. Marla, correct me if I'm wrong, that they would, so that we know and we can make sure that you have that ahead of time.
Yes, the organizers should be communicating with their speakers and vice versa if the speaker will not be there live, so that that file can be uploaded.
Perfect. All right, and I'm just going to show you one more time just kind of how to access the agenda, where that chat is. Just kind of, it doesn't hurt to see it too many times. So again, daily agenda, my agenda. These are where any of the sessions you as a moderator or session chair, excuse me, are going to be listed. You're going to click into those, click into manage, and then start meeting. So again, that's going to put you right into the Zoom room where we are now. The first thing you're going to do is make sure that you are the host. If you are not, make sure that you reclaim that host. Go ahead and rename yourself again, because you're going to enter as host 500. And then from there, everybody else should be joining you. And then as a moderator, you'll want to come back to the internet browser, back to meeting details, just so you have your chat all set up, just knowing that you're ready to go. And then at that point, you will want to go through all of your panelists that are in there with you, make sure checking sound, checking video, practicing screen share. And then at that point, you're ready to go. Webinar, you're going to go ahead and hit that start webinar, start broadcast 1 minute prior. And at that point, your attendees will now see you live. Let's see, just looking at some questions. Would you have something to test a day advanced so that the moderator can run a test? If it's something that you need or you feel like you need a test, let us know so we can set it up for you in the system. It certainly doesn't hurt if that's something that's going to make you more comfortable or happy to do it. I don't know who maybe the best contact is, but we'll let you know on that, of who you can reach out to, that we can set those up if you do need that. Somebody asked, to avoid confusion in that 20 minutes, could the recorded talks be made available to the moderators? The talks can be tested beforehand. So that in that 20 minutes, you are going to be testing those. So you would want to go, say Michelle has a video, we'll want her to share her screen, test it, make sure we can hear it. We'll stop share, go to the next person. So I don't think that will be an issue, but if it's something you're concerned about, we can certainly discuss your session. Hopefully that answers that question. And somebody asked about, do you have a video to show the functions? Are you talking about the functions of Zoom and the settings? That will be, if that is what you're referring to, we do have this included in our guide so that it will be completely covered, all the various steps, so that you can make sure it matches your session. Somebody asked, will MRS send a list of frequently asked questions and answers? It just seems, getting a little confusing. I completely understand that as we talk, it definitely gets a little bit confusing. But we do have tips and tricks on the website, and we can certainly send that out. And like we said, we're also going to include the guide that specifically walks you through the two various types and the various settings as well. All right, so somebody asked, oh, sorry, it keeps moving. Is it meant that we need to check all the speakers ourselves and make sure that they are all able to present live? I think, Marla, that might be a question I'm going to direct to you.
So the organizers, yeah, it would be really good if you're touching base with your presenters to determine whether they will be there or not. I lost the question, so I think
Marla, the other part of the question was, is it possible if they're not able to attend at the last minute, the moderator might not have a video in their computer? So isn't this the purpose of asking everyone to upload those videos, right? So that we would have access to it. So if somebody doesn't show them, we're able to play it. Isn't that the intent?
that is the intent.
Yeah, this is Pat. There could be an instance where it is just absolutely last minute, where somebody was supposed to be there and they had a family emergency. I would say the fallback in that case, if we don't have it recorded and you don't have access to that person for some reason, it would be handled in a similar way as we would have like a no-show at a meeting. So I don't know, Marla, if you have any other recommendation than that.
I'm sorry, Pat, I was having a hard time hearing. It would be handled the same way as what?
It would be handled the same way as a no-show at a meeting. You know, if in the case of a last minute emergency that somebody thought they were going to be there and they weren't, that you just, you know, you can fill the time with discussion, take a break, you know, the
Correct.
normal things that you would do for a no-show at a meeting.
Correct. Yeah, you could do a discussion time or a break, and then start the next talk at their appointed time.
Right. It is important to stay on time, on schedule.
And that's another place in a webinar style. It gives you the opportunity in that chat box that you could let them know that their time's coming up, especially if they aren't recorded and they are live. Because sometimes we start to babble. And I am the worst about that. When you get nervous, you kind of start babbling. So that's a great place to kind of give them the 5-minute warning, 2-minute warning as well in that chat. Somebody did ask if speakers could be requested to be present 30 minutes. Unfortunately, the system only allows 20 minutes prior is as soon as you can get into that session to join it and be ready. So it's certainly something when you're communicating with those speakers, press them as much as possible, be in there for that 20 minutes prior, because it only hurts, you know, everybody around you if you don't have that practice time, and, you know, makes everybody comfortable. So really stress that 20 minutes prior so that everybody's comfortable. The guide will be coming out, I would say, in the next day or two. The meetings team will be sending that out possibly sooner. So we will have that out to you. So if you have questions once you receive it, please let us know. We're happy to answer those. We want you to be comfortable for sure during this virtual meeting. Let's see. Somebody asked, aren't we going to be shared with all the uploaded videos? I think we kind of addressed that question, that, you know, a lot of the speakers are being requested to provide those, and we will have those.
May I just follow up, because I had a similar question. I think the concern is that that those talks will be only available through the Pathable platform, and that when we want to share them in our session, it's not the best way to do it. So maybe the best way for us as symposium organizers to request those videos, and then we can share it through our computers.
Are you saying instead of the speaker sharing it?
In case they're not there, in case there are technical issues, and, you know, just having a backup for the organizers would be really good. And it sounds like there's no mechanism to get us those talks unless we go through the website. And I think that's not the best way to share it for us.
I think let us talk about that internally, just exactly how they want to handle that piece of it, should that come up. And then we will make sure that a communication is sent to you on exactly how we'll handle situations and recordings and everything like that. But thank you for bringing that up. For the lightning and flash sessions, will there be time for questions? Marla, Pat, this might be a question for you, based on the time that they're provided.
Yes.
Is it just within?
We communicated with the authors that their time frame, because everybody has different amounts of time depending on what the organizers assigned, and we informed them that the Q&A should be included in that time frame. So per se, if they have 5 minutes, we say 2 to 3 minutes overview talk of your presentation, and then the rest of the 5 minutes would be in Q&A.
Awesome, thank you. Somebody asked if we should be able to log in now and see our agenda. So this is forthcoming. We'll let you know when that email is sent out from Pathable to log in. And at that point, you'll want to go to daily My Agenda just to make sure that your session / anything you're moderating, session chair, is showing there. So if for some reason it's not that way, you can notify us so we can make sure it's set up appropriately, excuse me, prior to you having your live session the day of. Somebody asked if this talk is scheduled for 12 minutes and for some reason they go over a few minutes, is that okay? Marla, Pat, I know you guys kind of were very specific about the times. Is that correct?
Yes, it's very important that you keep everyone on schedule because if people go 1 or 2 minutes over, the last talk may get short on, they may not have their full presentation time. So it is best if everybody stays on schedule, and there is a 10-minute grace period at the end of the 2 hours, but we really need to keep it time so that that time doesn't run out and the meeting shuts down on everybody.
So the role of the moderator would be to help and prompt people to stay on time, remind periodically.
Well, and again, I think for, this is one reason also why we asked everybody to pre-record, right? So that we can play those talks so that they're within those time frames that they're supposed to be. That in addition to avoiding the technical issues, it does help keep the sessions on time.
And the one thing they mentioned that we have not promoted to our speakers is that we do have that 10-minute window. So even if it's scheduled to end at 11 a.m., there is a 10-minute buffer after. But right when we hit that 10 minutes, so if it was scheduled at 11 a.m. to end, right at 11:10, it is going to stop whether you're talking or not. So we don't promote it, but it is there if we run into that situation. But try to still, end on time and keep within your window.
This is Judy. I have a question. So I think that the live invited talks that I was asked to record was 15-minute long, but the session that I'm going to chair is like a live lightning talk, which is 6-minute long or 9-minute long. It's a different length. So I don't think that playing a pre-recorded video would work. The other one is if somebody is going long, can I as a session chair just stop, just stop and move on? Is there a feature like that?
First part, the lightning talks, those are live talks. People are going to be coming in and there's no recorded presentation on those. They are speaking live and they are answering questions live. If somebody does go over their talk, then yes, just like you would in a meeting room, if somebody's going too long, you need to tell them that their time is up and we need to move on to the next speaker.
Can I override and start the next speaker or no? I can't. I don't have the ability to do that.
You can mute them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you find that's starting to be an issue, you can remind them at the beginning, or if you want to keep a timer next to you, I'm sure a lot of computers have countdown clocks and stuff, where you might just interject and say, 1 minute left or something like that, or 30 seconds, or, you might be able to do that if that seems to be a prevalent issue in your session. I think if you just said it briefly, it wouldn't interrupt anybody too much.
And then I know somebody asked about live poster sessions, just some questions on that. Is that, as far as how those are going to be handled, is that the question? And that might be something you guys could put some more, MRS team could put some more input into as far as the poster sessions specifically are concerned.
Yes, we're actually working on that email right now, and we hope to get that out to you very soon. Basically, those live poster sessions, you will have your green room, and the poster authors have been asked to, they'll be at, we're going to send a communication to the poster presenters from your group, because some of those have more than one symposium in it, and to come prepared with questions. We would like the organizers to come prepared with questions so that we can have an exchange of questions and answers in those live sessions. But we will be sending out an email to all of the moderators that have those live poster sessions. You'll be seeing that very soon.
Thank you, Marla. And I think as you have any questions, please let us know so that we can make sure you're 100% comfortable day of. Happy to answer any questions, anything like that. Somebody asked, are exhibitor presentations all pre-recorded? I don't know if that's necessarily something that would be answered here.
So, well, I think I can answer that. So I think if you're talking about the exhibitor workshops, the little 15-minute workshops that are being done, though that's optional, you can pre-record them or you can do them live. So that's really up to you.
Perfect. And I think the positive to pre-recorded is it just avoids any potential technical issues day of with your internet going in and out or anything like that. So it's good to have, even if you do plan to do live, kind of as a backup, because life happens. Somebody asked, is it possible to extend the 10-minute grade period further for a 2-hour session? Unfortunately, what we set, it's again, there's a lot of sessions happening, so the times are very specific. So it is really important to just keep your speakers on their schedule and kind of moving forward. And the 10 minutes, know that 10 minutes is all that we have post whatever time is listed.
Michelle, do you want to, or Jackie, do you want to talk about, if a conversation in a session continues and is active, what do you recommend that people then do? Can they set separate meetings, ask for a birds of a feather session? What is your recommendation to keep a lively engagement going? Set it aside, or saying, we'll reconvene here or something like that. What would be your recommendations?
Absolutely, yeah. So within the system, we actually have what's called private one-on-one meetings, which sets up a Zoom room. So that would be my recommendation to those people if they want to have a continued conversation kind of directly. And that's done so by people clicking on this People tab. They can search, as you can see, they're kind of broken down, but you can search by a particular person by going under here. I'm going to pull up my coworker, Michelle. So just simply clicking into them, and then you can schedule a meeting with this particular person. Again, it's a private one-on-one Zoom, and I apologize to not go there yet, but they can schedule a private one-on-one meeting with that individual if they want. And that might be something, especially webinars, that you're kind of suggesting through chat, that there are the ability to schedule private meetings with individuals if they want.
And also,
I have a question. Want to follow up about the 10-minute grace period, because it's a live session and there may be a lot of technical issue going on. So 10 minutes actually may not be enough. And and maybe the last speaker will be cut out if we just went over one at the beginning. So just want to see if any possibility to extend a bit further on that.
So technically, we shouldn't have any major issues with the actual session. If you have a speaker who maybe is having issues, I would suggest at that point, as a moderator or session chair, that maybe you skip over that person and come back to them if you need to. And MRS team can certainly jump in if you feel differently, but I know the schedules are very, very tight to be able to get all those sessions in.
You can also, the chat box within the platform will remain open, so people can kind of continue the conversation within that chat box as well, even if the session has concluded. So that's another option if it's like a lot of people are having conversations and it's not just like a couple people here and there that want to continue meeting. If it's the group in its entirety, you can keep using that chat box and talk amongst each other that way too, once that 10 minutes is over.
Okay, that's good to know.
Somebody asked, how about sponsor recognition during the live sessions?
Michelle, how are we handling the breaks that each session is having and interjecting other content? Is that determined?
So the sponsors will be recognized, I think, at the beginning of each session. There will be a slide, I think, that will be run, or if there were promises for other things like videos or that kind of thing. I would think that for those sponsored sessions that have something other than just a text recognition, right, of, for instance, symposium support or something like that, those would just be static in there. But if it's something where the sponsor was promised to either run a video or do a little, commercial type thing, I think that someone from staff will be in touch with the moderators of those sessions to give further instruction on that.
Thank you. So we have some questions about tutorials. How much time is allotted for each instructor? My tutorial is 3 instructors.
So this is Erin Moore. I do have a schedule for each different tutorial, and they will be given different times depending on, like you said, how many instructors and how long the tutorial is. So I will be getting that out shortly as well. So you'll know exactly when you're speaking and how long you have to speak.
Awesome. And I think follow-up to that question is they wondered if the graduate student awards have already been announced.
No, they have not been announced. The competition will be, I believe it's either this week or next, I think it's next week actually. And then they will be, they won't be officially announced in a session during the week. But what will happen is we'll make sure that they have a ribbon that says if they were a gold or silver winner. And a ribbon is something that'll show up on their profile. And then we also are planning to have a recognition wall within the hub area of the site. And we'll be able to recognize all of the award winners, graduate student awards and others in that area. And we're hoping to have a place in there that will allow people to offer, congratulatory messages and those sorts of things to the winners.
Michelle, do you want to mention, because we're talking about announcements and perhaps things that are happening at the meeting, you want to talk about the developing plans for kind of like that kickoff every day, kind of, where we had MRS TV in a live scenario, what are we going to do virtually?
Yeah, so on the home page of the site, there's an area for a video. And, just as we've had MRS TV at the meetings in the past that have done some interviews and things like that, we're also planning to have that for the virtual meeting where every day the MRS TV host will come on that little video on the home screen. So when people log in, they'll be able to play that. And the host will highlight the things that are going on that day. So whether it be the symposia or maybe we have, a magician or some kind of fun activity, the Symposium X talks or the plenaries or the award talks, those sorts of things. So whatever's happening on that day will be highlighted, as well as, again, a couple of interviews and things that you normally would see on MRS TV. I don't know whether Bob is on. If there's anything, Bob, if you're here and there's anything you want to add, feel free.
And yeah, while we're looking for Bob, also, if there's, how would moderators in particular, because they're in the sessions, who would they report, you know, if they had some sort of late breaking news or some, you know, a super session or something like that, who would they contact to bring attention to that? Would it be Bob? You know, who would that be?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I guess you could just email me, or we will have help desks set up as well within the platform. So there is a help center. So you could go there and potentially go into one of the rooms, and those will be staffed at all times. So I would suggest that that might be the easiest place for you, is just to go into the help center and go into one of those help rooms and let a staff member know, you know, what it is that you want to convey, and then they can get it to the right person. And we can, you know, in the meantime, figure out whether that should go to Bob or to the news team or somebody else on staff, and make sure we take care of that.
Our meeting scene staff or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, Michelle. This is Prasad. I just had a suggestion. Would Betsy or Gopal be the go-to people for such kind of information also?
Well,
I think for, this is Eileen. I think for the majority of time, the majority of late breaking news, we request that it go to Judy Mikeson, and I'll put her name in the chat because she will most likely be able to direct that to the team that she has covering the news, the bloggers, etc.
I know Jackie went to go deal with another group that she has currently happening. They're having a minor emergency. So she asked me to step in. I think most of the questions that are coming through have either been discussed or answered. Did anybody have anything else? Michelle, did you ever get Bob? I think maybe he's not on here. Just want to make sure we cover anything if that's still kind of outstanding, or if people have any questions still. I know we're going to send a bunch of information out, some guides and whatnot. This recording was also scheduled, so we can make sure that people have that if they need to go back and watch it. Can you share the training document in PDF? Yep, yeah, when we send it out, it'll be a PDF document so that we have everything, the guides that you need for it. I think that's what you're referring to.
And also another reminder to see if it's possible you can open up the floor, say a day early or something, we test all the functionalities in case things go wrong. And at least we can, I know that's Thanksgiving, but at least we can like check with you.
Yeah, we'll touch base with MRS team and see if there's something that we can potentially set up for speakers to kind of come in and test their videos if they need some extra comfort. But we'll touch base with the team on that and see if there's something that we can set up for everyone to make them feel more comfortable, because we definitely want to ensure that everyone feels good going into their session and that they're ready to kind of do what they need to do for a successful session and conference.
So one thing, so Michelle, before because I got to jet, but for the co-chairs, right? You are recording this whole thing so we can look at it later, right?
That's
so
correct.
you'll send us a link, okay? Because I just dropped in because I was doing something, but many of our co-chairs are not in except Sabrina, so I just want to make sure that we will get a recording to go over in case we miss stuff.
Yes, it will be posted on the MRS website along with the speaker training that was done last week. The days all run together. Last week, that is up there currently.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions? We are available, obviously, after this call too, in case something does come up. The MRS team can get a hold of myself or Jackie, and we're happy to answer any questions that way if something does arise and you need to ask it. And we will be covering the Birds of a Feather meeting. That's a training that we are doing later in the week, Michelle? I can't remember. Like you said, all the days are coming together. But we do have another training for moderators for the Birds of a Feather session because it is slightly different, not too much, but we will be doing a training for that one as well.
So can I have a question?
Sure.
So this training is for the moderators, and will you send the same instruction to the panelists or the live speaker?
If they will be getting.
So
right.
we already did a training for the speakers, panelists, and so forth for the live sessions last week and recorded that, and that's posted on the MRS website currently. It's similar, but you actually as moderators have a little more control and functionality than the speakers do. So that's why, you know, they were separate, but they have also been given instructions on their piece of it.
What day and time for the Birds of a Feather training?
Pam and Betsy, that'll be an internal staff thing, so I'll get back to you on that.
So can you walk us through where are the videos being posted on the website?
Sure. If you go to the MRS website, and I'm sure we'll send something out to let you know, to send you a link. But if you go to the MRS website and go to the meetings menu item and spring and fall virtual meeting. And then there is, I believe on the left side, an option that says for attendees or for presenters, one or the other. If you click
it's attendee guidelines.
Thank you, attendee guidelines. And if you click that, it'll take you to a page and the links to the recordings would be on there.
All right, thank you.
There was another question, Michelle. This might be for you. For the tutorial, do we have additional instruction? Will the tutorial talks be announced in the website soon?
So the tutorial instructors, I will be sending out more instructions for them, including the dates, the times, the length of their talks. And we are working on getting the website updated to reflect when the tutorials are and what they are. I don't have a specific time on the website though yet.
Oh, and someone just shared the link with all the attendee guidelines and whatnot in the chat. So if you do need access to that, thank you for putting that in there. All right, any other questions? No? All right, well, everyone have a great rest of your Tuesday. We look forward to seeing you. And again, we are still available should something come up. If you do have any other further questions, please reach out to the MRS team and they'll get in contact with me and Jackie to get you an answer. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.